How's it going, Knicks fans? Welcome back to Fireside Knicks with your boys, Alex and Ryan. Yesterday was a crazy freaking day. Dante DiVincenzo, that's our boy. That's our freaking boy. We've been talking about Dante for weeks now, before the Knicks were even connected to him, before there was even any links. And this is a player that we've been begging them to sign. We're so happy that this guy has become a New York Knick. Obviously, the three-point shooting has increased and improved. Obviously, his defense is solid, decent rebounder, gets some assists, just overall a good score. And the question now is, does he start over Quentin Grimes, or do you keep rolling with Grimes? I want to have this conversation, potential position battle that will be developing, because DiVincenzo has a pretty good history of good defense. If you look at his defensive ratings, they've been really, really solid. He had a high, I think a career best of like 101 with the Milwaukee Bucks a couple years back when he was a starter. Obviously he hasn't been starting as much lately. I think he started 36 games with the Warriors this past season, but he's capable. And Grimes, a ton of upside. This is a guy that, if he's not traded this offseason, which I don't think he will be, could be a really good shooting guard at the NBA level, and obviously has decent defense. He can get a lot better in that regard. I think there's a lot of untapped potential. And as a shooter, I want it to be more aggressive. So, this is a good kind of position battle the Knicks have, because it's going to bring out the best of both players. And I want to kind of discuss their averages, where this could go, and who we think will end up winning this battle. But Ryan, before we dive into this interesting topic, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great. I feel like the Dante DiVincenzo signing is one of those signings where the Knicks got their guy. Now, does that necessarily mean that Dante DiVincenzo is a superstar? No, but I don't think any of us are saying that. This is more like when you got Josh Hart. That's the guy they wanted. That's the guy they got. And the improvement was massive. I don't know if many people are aware of this or remember this, but that February Knicks team, it felt like they were just a play-in team. That team did not feel like a great team. That team did not feel like a team that would win a playoff series. The gap in talent between them and the Cavaliers felt too much to overcome. It felt like they weren't even going to get that matchup. It felt like they would have to match up with the 76ers, and we would have to be okay with being basically a stomping ground and a get-right series for the Philadelphia 76ers before they go play Boston or Milwaukee. And end of the day, that's not how it ended up happening, because Josh Hart came to the Knicks. I actually looked at Jalen Brunson's net rating before Josh Hart was here and after. 1.8 before Josh Hart got here, which is definitely still good, but definitely not, star level, to above 9. It was 9.3 the second Josh Hart got traded over here. That's a massive difference. And the big reason for that is because, the Knicks' two primary stars are Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. These are both guys who are poor defensive players. The Knicks are a significantly worse defense when Jalen Brunson's on the court, but that's because of the fact that he runs with a bunch of not great defenders. Quentin Grimes is really the only guy in that starting lineup who is a quality perimeter defender. Mitchell Robinson, of course, is going to be in the interior. You're not throwing Mitchell Robinson out on the perimeter and opening up the interior for someone to cut to the basket. And Barrett took a massive step back in that regard. Randall's never really been a strong perimeter defender. Brunson's an undersized guard. So Grimes took a big load of the defensive pressure. So having DiVincenzo as well to have in the mix alongside Josh Hart, you have three really good perimeter defenders who are aggressive, who can do a myriad of things and really are stoppers out there. We saw this in the Cavs series. Donovan Mitchell was a shell of himself. Quentin Grimes was guarding him. Quentin Grimes did an excellent job in that series. But it felt like Grimes got tired towards the end of that series, and he's still a young player. This is a guy who was in his age 22 season. He's now entering his age 23 season, year 3 in the league, took a big leap in year 2. What does that year 3 leap look like? He had the highest matchup difficulty in the NBA. DiVincenzo was a little bit more of a veteran. 26 years old, isn't old or anything like that, but he has way more experience. As you mentioned, was with the Bucks, recently with the Warriors on that playoff team. He was a starting shooting guard of a championship team. I think that matters. I think that pedigree matters. And it would be interesting. I think you could reasonably argue that not just that these two are going to be in a shooting guard battle, but should these two be on the court together? That's the question I think you could ask as well. Who's the help defender for DiVincenzo if Quentin Grimes isn't on the court? Do you trust Barrett in that role? Is Barrett even going to be here? Now, I think if you acquire Paul George, then this becomes a more that would just be a battle. We're not sitting here discussing whether Paul George is coming off the bench for the New York Knicks. But I think that as for right now, we could have the conversation of battle. I think that's very important because these two guys are similar in a lot of ways. They are shooting guards who prioritize 3 and D. That's their game. But with the way that the Knicks are constructed and the fact that Brunson's an undersized guard, Randall struggles defensively, and Mitchell Robinson's an interior guy, do you want both of these guys on the court together? helping each other out on the perimeter, especially with the idea that Dame Lillard could go to Miami. You don't want to have Dame Lillard. You're going to have to pick between Dame Lillard and Jimmy Butler getting guarded by Quentin Grimes. And I don't want to imagine Jalen Brunson or Julius Randle or RJ Barrett on Dame Lillard. That does not seem like a pretty sight. So do you want them both on the court together? Do they have to stagger their minutes? I think Tom Thibodeau will figure that out, but definitely an interesting situation here. So, like, do you think that they could share the court together? And if you had to pick between either of the two to win the shooting guard battle, who's your money on?
I mean, look, like, you're not paying RJ to come off the bench at 22 mil. So, like, if he's on this team, he's starting. I think that's, like, objectively what's going to happen. Like, they're banking on him taking a big step forward if they keep him. But I think there's, like, a 50-50 shot he gets traded this offseason, personally. I still do see this as a Grimes or DiVincenzo kind of thing. Having them on the court together, I would love to see that. You know, testing different alignments, seeing which guys kind of work well with each other is not a bad thing. Like, you could see if DiVincenzo and Grimes work well together over Barrett and Grimes, or Barrett and DiVincenzo. You can test those alignments, test those combinations to see maximum efficiency. But I do think that, like, this is an interesting position battle if it does get to that, because, you know, the defense is there for both of them. They're both solid defenders, but also, like, DiVincenzo, like you said, is a little bit more experienced. Oh, not even a little bit, a lot of more experienced. He averaged 9.4 points last year over, like, 4 fewer minutes than Grimes, who I think averaged about 11.3 points. But DiVincenzo also hit 4.35 from the field, about a 40% hit rate from beyond the arc with Golden State, and had a 5.74 effective field goal rate, 4.5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. The guy can pass. Like, this is an underrated portion of his game. He's a good passer, and he can get some rebounds. You know, this is a skill set of his that he's a pretty well-rounded player. He's a pretty good, nice rotational piece. There's a reason we loved him so much. And, you know, he started 36 games last year. I think Grimes started like 69 or something of that, 66 of 71 games. But the defensive ratings, that's what stands out to me the most, Ryan. You look at DiVincenzo's defensive rating last year, 113.2. Grimes finished at 117. You know, that's a big difference. Like, Grimes really wasn't that great of a defender last year until the playoffs, where he stepped up against Donovan Mitchell and stepped up against Jimmy Butler on occasion, where he had a couple really good games. During the regular season, he had a couple injury issues. He wasn't altogether that good of a defender. I think there's a lot of room left to grow, because in his rookie season, he was an excellent defender. But DiVincenzo has been consistently in the 113 to 110 range throughout his entire career, which leads me to believe, like, he's better on the floor than Grimes is right now. But the conversation to have isn't who's better right now, because I think objectively DiVincenzo is better. I think the conversation to have is more so, can Grimes become better than DiVincenzo? And giving him the starting opportunities, giving him more minutes, is that going to lead him to getting better quicker, to being better faster? Are you willing to kind of roll with the developmental upside of Grimes as a starter over DiVincenzo's established quality now? Or do you want to go with the guy who's going to help you win games immediately, who's going to be better with the minutes he has on the floor? You know, I think that's kind of the conversation to have. If the Knicks want to be a win now team, you know, you got to go with the guy that's going to give you ability to win now. But at the same time, I think both these guys, like, the margin for difference right now, like, they're marginally better than one another in different categories. I think they're pretty even in a lot of them. I think effective field goal rate, Grimes is better. 3-point percentage, DiVincenzo's better by about 1.5%. Field goal rate, Grimes is better. You know, when you look at assists and rebounds, DiVincenzo's better defensively. Like, DiVincenzo's better. So, you know, when you're looking at it, are you going to bank on the upside of Grimes giving him more minutes because of that? But I also, at the same time, I don't think that they're, like, the minutes difference is going to be massive. Like, Grimes can play 30 minutes and DiVincenzo could still play 26 minutes off the bench, and it won't be a big deal. Injuries happen too. So, like, you're going to need Dante to fill a starting job at some point in time, most likely. You know, based on those variables, who are you looking to start, you know, right now? Let's say in context of it's mid-season, regular season, and game one, or middle of a series of a playoff series. Who are you rolling with based on those variables?
Yeah, so I think the biggest reason for the discrepancy in defensive rating has to do with the defensive assignments. Again, I feel like Quentin Grimes, there was no help for him on that in the court, and unfortunately for a lot of player stats, right? Like, it's widely dependent. Unless you're a star level player, it really feels widely dependent on the teammates and the situation you have around you, and that's one area of the roster construction I think needs to get better. And you're right, the Knicks are not going to pay RJ Barrett to come off the court. But I also don't feel like you want to sacrifice your defense with the starting lineup. And also at the same time, you want to win basketball games. Like, the number one objective is to win basketball games. And, you know, I just, the way I view it is that are the Knicks going to be, what are the Knicks losing with RJ off the starting lineup? And I think that's the shot creation he gives you. He's a great shot creator. But can Quentin Grimes develop into that? We saw Quentin Grimes have flashes of great shot creation, not good, great shot creation, the ability to drive to the basket, kick it out to anyone on the perimeter, or, passes to Mitchell Robinson down low. We know his ability to shoot threes is phenomenal. He has pretty good handles, great athleticism, great speed. This young player, this dude took a huge leap in scoring last year. He went from really just a three-point shooter to someone who can drive to the basket and do so reliably. And if you look at how the Knicks were as an offense without him on the court, they had a 120.9 offensive rating with him on the court, 115.8 with him off the court. That's a pretty dramatic difference. He helps this offense. He's really good offensively. But with that being said, if you put DiVincenzo in that role, now he's going to have the defensive matchups that Grimes had. And as we know, Grimes led the league in matchup difficulty, so that means that DiVincenzo is going to have tougher assignments defensively. Is that going to impact his defensive impact? And really, it feels like the variable here is Barrett, right? Like that feels like the reason why, that feels like the anchor of the defense that isn't anchoring the defense, or being the help defender that they need him to be. You need to have your wings capable of playing strong perimeter defense, or have guards who are able to do so. And you know that Brunson's not going to be able to do that. And quite frankly, you're not expecting Brunson to do that. So the way I view it is I'm building around Jalen Brunson. That's my priority, right? That's the guy who I know is the star player for this team. I think you agree with me in that sense that, Brunson is the best player on this team. Brunson is the guy that you view as the guy that you're looking to pair co-star with. You're not thinking what's the fit with Randall and that player or Barrett and that player. You're thinking Brunson and that player. You'll figure out everything else once that player gets here. But I feel like that works with the starting lineup as well. What works best for Brunson? It's having two wings / guards who can guard the perimeter and play great defense. And that's DiVincenzo and Grimes. And you're probably lowering the defensive assignments for both DiVincenzo and Grimes. Right? Like, these two guys are great defenders and they're great players for what their roles are. And if you pair them together, man, if you're an NBA team without two great scoring wings, how are you really going to get past these two? Right? Jimmy Butler was able to have an unbelievable series against the Knicks, and that's because of the fact that he could take advantage of Quentin Grimes being the only strong defender on this team. If you look at his field goal percentage, he only shot 43.2% from the floor and 11.1% from three. From a true shooting percentage, he was not great. 55.2% is below league average, but he had a 122.2 offensive rating in that series, and that's because he was capable of playmaking and getting the ball out to other guys. He had 6 assists a game in that series. Did really well on the rebounding side of things. He got to the basket, to the foul line a lot. He averaged over 10 attempts from the free throw line a game, hit 86% of those, right? Like, when you have the ability to take advantage of no help defender, that's something that's going to gash you, right? And that's something that gashed the Knicks in that series, and that's what cost them, I feel like, on top of the fact they didn't shoot well from three, which is something DiVincenzo adds as well. Having a catch and shoot option, really having two great catch and shoot options. That's going to be great. The Knicks, they do a great job of staggering minutes. Like, Josh Hart doesn't start, but he closes with them. And I think that's really all you care about. And really just having the myriad of options here, it really does feel like Barrett's going to have to step up defensively. I think on opening night, you're going to see DiVincenzo start. Or Grimes start, whichever one. I put my money on Grimes just because I think DiVincenzo's okay coming off the bench, and they acquired Josh Hart and had him off the bench, and it worked fine. But come the middle of the season, I don't know if Barrett stays starting. I don't know if they're going to be able to survive it. I don't, unless they number one, trade him and get a star caliber player, or B, reconstruct the roster to have defenders all around Brunson and Barrett. I don't think it's going to work because I don't think that you can have Barrett and Brunson on the same court alongside Randall and expect strong defense and expect to not get run off the court by much better teams. We're trying to enter a point of the Knicks franchise where they're championship contenders. And when they acquired Josh Hart, according to net rating, the win-loss record, their performance on the court, they were, right? They played like championship contenders once Josh Hart got here. That team just added Dante DiVincenzo, who's a great role player. And you feel like if they get that offseason to work together, that training camp, and they enter this season, they hit their stride, that they can play like championship contenders, at least on paper. But it's going to have to come with the Knicks utilizing their roster properly. And either Barrett's going to step up, or I think both these guys are going to end up starting at some point during the year.
And that may just be the thing. They may end up starting at both times at different times of the year, and we'll just kind of play the hot hand. Both these players can be a part of a winning basketball team. We've seen it happen. We've seen it in live action. We've seen it in real time. But I'm happy to hear your perspectives below, my friends, in the YouTube comment section regarding DiVincenzo and Grimes. If you think one will start over another, if one will become a rotational piece, or they'll flip-flop, maybe they'll play on the court at the same time. Always happy to have your opinions and have some good conversations below. But as always, my friends, make sure to like and subscribe. As always, we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Knicks episode. you.